Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we'll be showing you how to repair your appliance. Remember, anytime you work on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. Also make sure you turn off your hot and cold water supplies. In this video, we're going to show you how to change out the Samsung washer clutch assembly. It's going to be a very easy repair and should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can click on the link below or get it at AppliancePartsPros.com. When you open the package, you're going to get the new clutch assembly. The clutch assembly goes in between the motor and the tub to drive it during the agitate and spin cycles. The main reason you'd be changing it out is if the seal has failed and you're getting water leaking on the floor, or it's leaking internally causing the bearings to fail and make noise, or the clutch assembly has failed and the washer is not shifting from agitate to spin, or something else has failed internally inside the clutch and the tub's not being driven. In order to change the part, we have to go to the back of the machine. Now that we're on the back of the machine, we have access to the water fill hoses. They're located right here in the center of the machine. We're going to take off the hoses. If yours aren't labeled, make sure you label them so you don't mix them up. And then we're just going to use the pliers to break them free. And unscrew them by hand. Now that we have the hoses off, we're going to use the Phillip screwdriver to take out the screws to hold the top on and the access panels down. For this access panel, we're just going to take out this screw so it makes it easier to get this access panel off. Once you have the screws out, you can just pull on the lower panel and then pull the upper panel out of these two tabs right here and off this tab. Once you have the access panel off, we can go back to the front of the washer. Now that we have everything off the back, we're going to come around front and open up the lid. Now we can reach in with a small flathead screwdriver and lift the pulsator cap out. There's just a little slot right here that you have to lift up on and pull it out. Once you have that out, we have to take the pulsator itself out. So we're going to reach in with a 10mm socket, an extension, and a ratchet. While you're taking it out, you want to hold the inner tub so it doesn't spin around while you're loosening it up. Once you have the bolt loose, you can reach in and pull it out. And then we have to take the pulsator out. Sometimes they're in there pretty tight, so we're gonna take a couple small angled picks and get in the holes on each side. Once you have it in there, you just want to kind of rock it back and forth, shake it free, and pull up on it. Once you have it free, you can lift it out and set it aside. In order to get the nut out, we're going to use a smaller adjustable wrench. It has to be short enough so that the end doesn't hit the side of the tub. And we're going to wrap some tape around it so it doesn't scratch the tub. And the nut is reverse thread, so we have to go clockwise to break it free. We're just going to put the wrench on there, hold the tub, and knock it with the hammer. Once you have it free, you can just reach in and unscrew the nut, and there's also a washer underneath that you want to grab and pull out. Now that we have the nut and washer off, we're going to reach in and clean that area off, and you want to put some rust buster down around the area of the clutch to help break it free when you're taking it out. So we're just going to use a wire brush first and then the rust buster. Now that we have everything out of the tub, we're going to lift the whole top assembly up. We're going to take the screws out that hold it down. We're going to use a flathead screwdriver to remove the rubber covers. Once you have the grommets out of the way, we can use the Phillip screwdriver to take out the screws that hold the top down. Once you have the screws out, we're going to lower the lid down and we're going to tape it down on the side where it's a little bit wider, so when we lift the top up it doesn't fall. Once you have the lid taped down, we're going to lift up the top. Just want to be careful as you lift it up. There's really no hinges on the back or anything, so you're going to have to lift up on each side, kind of hook it in place. These little cutouts that hold it up, and then we're going to support it with a pole or a stick or whatever you have. Now that we have the top up, we're going to take the tub cover off. It's held in by 4 screws around the edges. We're going to use a Phillip screwdriver to reach in and take out the screws. If you have problems with getting the screw out because of the little lip around it, you can just reach in with a needle nose and pull them out. Now that you have the screws out, there's also 4 locking tabs that hold the cover on. To release them, you just want to press down on the tub cover above the tab to release the pressure, and then pull up to unsnap it. Once you have the first one unsnapped, you can just go around and do the other 3. Once you have all the locking tabs released, we're going to carefully pull the tub cover out and set it aside. If you have to move the top a little bit, just lift it up. And then make sure you're properly supporting it again. Now we're going to try to take the inner tub out. Usually this area right down here where it's attached to the tub is stuck together pretty good. So you want to try to pull up on the tub while you hold the outer tub down. Kind of rock it back and forth and try to break it free. If it comes out, no problem. Just lift up the top a little bit more and pull the whole basket out. If your inner tub wouldn't come out like ours, we're going to have to put the top down and go underneath. Once you have the top down, we're going to go around back and use the Phillip screwdriver to put in the screws to hold the top to the cabinet. Now that we have the screws in, we're back around front, and we're just going to put some tape here across the top of the cabinet to hold this down so we don't have to put those screws back in. If you have the type that are clipped in and the top's going to stay down, you don't have to worry about it, but we're going to put an extra piece on there. Now we're going to lay a towel down on the floor to protect the floor and the washer. You just want to carefully lay it down on its back. Now that we're underneath, we have access to the clutch assembly. It's located underneath the motor. We're going to have to take this bracket off first. So we're going to use a ratchet with an extension and a 10mm socket. Once you have all the bolts out, you can just pull the bracket off. It just presses onto those two plastic pegs. Now we have to take off the nut that holds the motor rotor on. It's on there pretty tight with a locking washer and stuff. So we're going to take a smaller Phillips screwdriver, stick it in this hole right here. You don't want to use one of these outer ones because you'll damage the motor itself. And we're just going to stick it in there until it goes all the way in. And then turn it until it locks in place. And then we can grab the ratchet with the 17mm socket and loosen it up. Once you have it free, you can pull the screwdriver out and set it aside. Once you have it off, you can pull the nut and the two washers off and set them aside. Now we can pull the rotor off. You want to just reach up and grab it by the lip. It's magnetized to the stator, so you want to be careful when you pull it off. Once you have it free, you can set it aside. Now that we have the rotor out, we can take the stator out. It's got a couple wiring harnesses at the bottom here on the left-hand side that we have to take off. For this one, we're just going to take a small flathead screwdriver and press down on this locking tab right here. Carefully pull it out. And on this one, there's a locking tab on each side. So you just need to squeeze it and pull it off. Once you have the wiring harnesses disconnected, we can use the ratchet and the 10mm socket to take out the bolts that hold the stator on. As you're taking the last one out, you want to make sure you hold the stator up so it doesn't fall off. Once you have all of them out, you can pull the stator off and set it aside. Now we can take off the link arm. It goes over here to the shift actuator motor. We're going to use a ratchet, 10mm socket, and a longer extension to reach in and take these off. Once you have the bolts out, we're not going to take the wiring harness off. We just have to disconnect it from the arm itself. You can see there's these little tabs right here on this side. We need to rotate them down to the bottom so we can kind of twist it and get it to come off. So we're just going to pull it out carefully and then turn this down and then kind of flex it so it comes off the actuator arm. Once you have it free, you can just set it aside. Now we have to take off the little wiring harness clips. There's 4 of them here at the bottom of the clutch assembly. They come with the new clutch. In order to get the wires out, you just have to untwist them and pull the wires out. Once you have them all untwisted, we're going to use the Phillips screwdriver to take out the grounding screw. Now we're going to remove the clutch assembly from the bottom of the tub. We're going to remove all the 10mm bolts on the inside and the outside. We're going to use the ratchet with the longer extension and the 10mm socket. Now that you have all the bolts out, the clutch itself is still situated on these locator pins, and you may have to go around with a couple flathead screwdrivers and try to pry it out, or you can try to pull on these little handles and work it back and forth and try to get it out. If you were able to get your inner basket out, all you have to do is work it off the tub seal and pull it out. If your inner basket is stuck in there like ours, we're going to have to go back up and pound it out and then come back down here and pull the clutch out. Now we're going to put the washer back up on its feet. We put a towel down to protect the floor for when the clutch falls out. Now we're going to remove the tape so we can lift up the lid. We're just going to lift the whole assembly up. Now we're going to pound out the clutch. We're just going to reach down with a piece of wood and center it on the shaft and just try to pound it out. Once you hear it fall out of the inner tub, you can take the wood or whatever you're smashing them with out. You can see that the clutch fell down onto the ground. So now we're going to have to lift up the top assembly and get the inner tub out of the way. In order to take the basket out, we have to lift the top up. So we're going to take this tape off here and leave it there because we're going to put it back on in a few minutes. And we're going to close the lid and tape it down. Then we're going to go around back and take out the screws to hold the top to the cabinet. Now we're going to come around the front and lift up on the top again. Just remember, you want to be very careful. There's no hinges or anything on the back. We're just going to kind of prop it up and lift it up and hold it in place almost straight up and down so we can reach in and grab the inner tub out. It is kind of heavy, so if you need to grab somebody to help you, make sure you do. Once you have the inner tub out, we're just going to carefully set the top back down. Tape it in place. Now we're going to go around back and use the Phillip screwdriver to put in the 2 screws to hold the top to the cabinet. Now that we have the screws in, we're going to carefully lay the washer on its back so we can go underneath and finish doing the clutch. Once you have the washer on its back, you can grab the clutch and pull it off the machine. Here's the old clutch assembly next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. Before you put the new clutch in, you want to make sure this area right here is clean of any residue, soap or whatever you got built up in there. Once you have it cleaned out, we're going to spray some water in this area and then on the actual tub seal itself. That'll make it easier to slide in. Once you have it lubed up, you just want to turn it and make sure that the arm is coming out this way and it's lined up with the locator pins. Once you have it lined up with the locator pins, you can just push it up. You may not be able to get it seated all the way, but you can start putting in the bolts in a minute and slowly pull that seal up into the tub so it seals. We're going to use the ratchet with the long extension and the 10mm socket to put all the bolts back in. Now Now we're going to remount the wiring harnesses. We're going to use the Phillips screwdriver, put in the grounding wire. Once you have those in, we can put the other wiring harnesses in the holders. All you have to do is clip them in and then turn the holders to lock them in. Now we can put the shift actuation motor back in. We're just gonna line this up with the arm right here. And same as when you took it off, you're gonna have to put it at a little bit of an angle, make sure that those two little tabs line up with the flat spot. And you can just flex it in. Once you have it in place, we can use the ratchet with the extension and the 10mm socket to put the bolts back in. We're just going to turn it and set it into place and put the bolts in. Now we can put the stator in. You want to make sure the electrical connections are over here on this side. And you want to line this screw hole up with the screw on the clutch. Once you have it set in place, we can grab one bolt to hold it in place. Once you have the first one in, we can use the ratchet and the 10mm socket to put the rest in. Now we can reconnect the wiring harnesses. We're just going to grab the wiring harnesses and plug them into the stator. Make sure they go all the way in so you get a good connection. Once you have them locked on, we can put the rotor back on. We're just going to carefully line it up on the stator. Be careful of the magnet so it doesn't pinch as you slide it on. Once you have the rotor in place, we're going to grab a small Phillips screwdriver, just like when we took it off. Stick it through this inner hole right here to hold it in place. We're going to grab the washers. You have the inner flat one and then the locking washer, and then the nut. Once you have it started, we're going to grab the ratchet with the extension and the 17mm socket and tighten it down. Once you feel it tighten down, you want to grab the screwdriver a little bit more and get the nut nice and tight. Once you have it tightened down, we can put the bracket back on. To put the bracket on, we're just going to set it onto the locating pins and hold it in place. And then we can grab the ratchet, a couple of extensions, and the 10mm socket and put in the bolts. Once you have the bolts in, we can pull the towel out and set the washer back on its feet. Once you have it back on its feet, you can pull the other towel out too. We're going to use the Phillips screwdriver to take out the screws that hold the top to the cabinet. Now we're going to come back around front and pull the tape that holds the top to the cabinet. Before we put the inner tub back in, you want to look at this area right here and clean it up. Just take a little brush, some cleaner, and clean it up. You want to make sure that these grooves are cleaned out of any gunk that might be in there. So when we push it down onto the new clutch, it slides down with no problem. Now we can lift up the top. Just like before, you want to carefully lift it up. There's no hinges. And if you need to, you can always have somebody help you, but you want to make sure the top is supported. So we can set the inner tub onto the clutch shaft. We're not going to worry about getting it lined up perfectly. We're just going to set it in place and then put the top down and work on it. Once you have it in place, we're going to grab the support bar and just hold the top up so we can put the inner tub the rest of the way back in. Once you have the top supported, we're just going to lift the inner tub out a little bit and get it to line up with the splines so it slides down onto the clutch. To put the tub cover in, you want to make sure that this cutout here is over in the lower left corner. And same as when you took it out, you have to very carefully lift up the top so we can slide it in and then snap it in place. Once you have it in place, we can put the support back in and go around and snap it in. Remember, there's 4 locking tabs that hold it, so we're just going to go around and lock them all in. Once you have them locked in, we can use the Phillip screwdriver to put in the screws. Now that we have the tub cover on, we can lift up on the top assembly and pull the support out. And we're going to lower it down, push it back so the mounting tabs go over the back. Once you have the top back in place, we can take the tape off. Then we can lift up the lid and put the screws back in with a Phillips head screwdriver. Once you have the screws in, we can put the rubber covers back on. All you have to do is line them up and push them in. Now you just want to make sure that the inner tub is all the way down on the splines. You can see right there that you can't see any splines coming up above the bottom of the tub there. So we're going to put the wave washer in. Then we can put the nut on. Remember, it's a reverse thread, so you want to go counterclockwise to tighten it down. Once you have it snug, we can grab the pipe wrench and the hammer and tighten it down. We're just going to take the pipe wrench with the tape on it to protect the tub and put it onto the nut and adjust it on there. Then we're going to hold onto the tub so it doesn't move while you're tightening it up. Once you have it good and tight, we can take the pipe wrench out and put the pulsator back in. To put it in, we're just going to set it onto the clutch shaft. You may have to turn it a little bit to get it to drop down on the splines. Once you have it down, we can put the bolt in. Then we're going to use a ratchet with an extension and a 10mm socket to tighten it down. As you're tightening down, you want to make sure you hold the tub so it doesn't spin. Then we can put on the pulsator cap. There's 3 tabs in the pulsator that the cap lines up with. All you have to do is line it up and snap it in. Now we can put the lid down and go around back. Now we're going to put the smaller access panel on. Just want to lift it into place and slide it onto the lower panel. And then put the tabs in over here. Push it back into place. And then we can use the Phillip screwdriver to put in the 2 screws. Then we can use the Phillip screwdriver to put in the 2 screws that hold the top on. Now we can put the fill hoses back on. Just want to make sure you get the hot on the hot and the cold on the cold. Just gonna get them started by hand so we don't damage the threads. Then we can snug them down with the pliers so we don't get any leaks. Once you have them tightened down, we can plug it back in, turn the water on, take a burst spin. Thanks for joining us for another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Check out our other repair videos on our site, Facebook, and YouTube.